Welcome back to Free Media. I'm Robby Soave.
And I'm Amber Duke. A man attacked a group of Jewish demonstrators advocating for the release of Gaza hostages, injuring 8 people with Molotov cocktails. The suspect, identified as Egyptian national Mohammed Solomon, shouted "Free Palestine" as he lobbed firebombs at the activist. Here's a police press conference about the attack.
I'm able to confirm there are 6 victims, ages 67 to 88. All of them have been transported to local hospitals. This attack happened at a regularly scheduled weekly peaceful event. Witnesses are reporting that the subject used a makeshift flamethrower and threw an incendiary device into the crowd. The suspect was heard to yell "Free Palestine" during the attack. The subject has been identified as Mohammed Sabri Solomon, and he's 45 years old. The FBI is processing the crime scene and the subject vehicle and interviewing key witnesses. We're assisting Boulder Police in providing technical, analytic, and additional forensic resources. As a result of these preliminary facts, it is clear that this is a targeted act of violence, and the FBI is investigating this as an act of terrorism.
So since that press conference, it's a total of 8 people who were injured. No one has died, although it seems like pretty bad injuries for at least 2 of the individuals. Really just awful, shocking attack. Is reminiscent to me of the people killed in D.C. by another Free Palestine deranged lunatic who killed this young couple in D.C. just a few weeks ago. So really awful.
Really awful, yeah. This was apparently a weekly event. Every Sunday in Boulder, this group of people would march in support of the hostages in Gaza, and this guy came out of the woodwork and decided to attack them. He also is in the country illegally. He is an Egyptian national who overstayed a visa that he received during the Biden administration. And I've been very disturbed by a lot of the media coverage of this event, trying to call him an El Paso man, referring to El Paso County, Colorado. It's like reminiscent of the Maryland Father headlines.
Well, and the visa he overstayed was a travel visa.
Right.
So, but although I know there's a lot of commentary about immigration and who would, but there isn't, I mean, tell me if I'm wrong, I don't know, there aren't even really plans to change travel visas, right? Is anyone saying he shouldn't have been able to come here in the first place? I know, don't threaten you with restrictions on immigration, but.
Yeah, that's true. I mean, well.
And then he applied for a work visa that that expired.
Right.
And he's again, it's another asylum claim type thing that'll take a million years.
Yeah, I think what this does give credence to is the Trump administration's crackdown on student visas, particularly for individuals who have been expressing some kind of support for Hamas, right? Because they have acted in ways that are somewhat radical in terms of taking advantage of the U.S.'s predilection towards free speech to block access to certain parts of campus, to create these encampments. And now you have people that are aligned with them, at least ideologically, actually committing acts of violence, one of whom was an immigrant who overstayed a visa. So the Trump administration is certainly going to use this to say, see, look, we've been trying to get these people out of the country, and we've been blocked by the courts and by the Democrats.
I'm sure they will, and if there's anything in his background that indicated that he was violent or inclined toward violence, then absolutely that's a police failing or an immigrations authority failing that should be fully vetted, as often is the case in situations where someone commits a mass shooting or a bombing or a killing. What we find out is that law enforcement was well known about the person, that friends and family had contacted law enforcement, and that all the warning signs were there and nothing was done. So I certainly want to investigate all of that. I don't want to, paint the entire, I think it is, there are many people who are just opposed to what Israel is doing, and that is a perfectly valid political viewpoint to express. That includes people on the right. It's not just confined to the left. And I know many of them who do so with, absolute disgust for and opposition to violence. Now, that's not all of them. It is the case that one of the student activist groups, National Students for Justice in Palestine, implicitly was in favor of what happened on October 7th or making excuses for it, and has continued to use rhetoric that is, you could say, is in line with this kind of violence that is just absolutely despicable. But I still don't want to. And what do you make of like the media coverage? Because I did see some conservatives complaining about like the way the headlines were for the victims as well, like they're described as Gaza hostage protesters instead of Jews, but that is what they were doing. Like that is the more specific thing they were doing. And also, there is a difference between, it can be tricky. I would describe him as an anti-Israel crazy person, not necessarily. Maybe he is also anti-Semitic. I don't know. It could perfectly well be the case, but they are two somewhat different things. And this violence is not legitimized at all and is still wrong. It doesn't matter if it's in response to Jewish people or in response to Israel. Nothing justifies it, but it's not. I mean, they were targeted for being on the side of the hostages, not necessarily for
those headlines don't bother me as much as the intent to cover up the details about his immigration status, which I find so strange. Like, they just don't want to give any ammunition to crackdowns on immigration. There was another MSNBC clip as well where they referred to him as a white man, which, of course, because they love this narrative of, like, white men are the real domestic terrorists.
Right. I mean, that's a good lesson to not weigh in before you know the facts, right? They might just not have known that yet. I mean, obviously, I don't think they want to, because she's going to be humiliated for saying that, right? Because he's not a white man. He's
Maybe.
an Egyptian man.
I doubt she'll lose her job or anything will happen to her.
All right. Thanks for watching Free Media. Be sure to like, share, and subscribe to our show, and we'll have more for you first thing tomorrow morning.